investing in any US stocks being in India.
The money is remitted out from your bank account via LRS.
Good exposure of the different verticals in finance industry, including investing, including wealth management, including taxation, and now lending also.
I chose fintech because this space really excited me.
Key challenges during those tenure working in those organizations have came your way, and how did you solve it?
As a product manager, you tend to live in the future. Like as a designer, you would relate. You would want to give that experience. You want to visualize something.
What are those critical challenges that came as a roadblocker in your process? Welcome to another episode. Today I'm excited to host Aditya, a former senior director of PM at INDMoney and currently the vice president of product at mPokket, where he leads the finance product for one of India's most popular instant loan apps. Aditya has built and scaled innovative financial products across top companies like INDMoney, ClearText, and Paytm Money. At INDMoney, he was instrumental in building the US stock product, making global investment accessible to Indian users. During his time at ClearText, he developed the Max ITC product, a B2B solution that helps enterprises unlock working capital through ITC claims. And at Paytm Money, he contributed to building mutual fund and NPS products, driving retail participation in India's investment landscape. In this episode, we dive into the mechanics of investing in US stocks from India, the evolving goals and challenges of cross-border investing, the rise of digital banking in India and what makes it so widely adopted, lessons from building diverse fintech products across lending, stocks, and tax management, and practical advice for those starting a career in fintech beyond product management skills. If you are curious about how fintech products are designed, scaled, and adopted in India, or are looking to step into fintech space, this conversation is packed with insights you can't miss. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube. Your support helps us bring in more insightful conversation with industry leaders. Let's jump in and hear from Aditya. Hey Aditya, thanks for joining today. It's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, pleasure is all mine, man.
Great. Aditya, investing in any US stocks being in India, right? It's a kind of a difficult challenge, right? For any of us living in India. And if you allow me to get some interfaces or something where I can do that literally, it's a blessing for me and to that point which is very seamless in nature. But that's what you see from the very outsider perspective, right? But it has to go through couple of set processes, a couple of compliances, geographical restrictions, and lot of other things. In order to curate that process, and automation in the product also entertains a lot of challenges, right? Internally, you have been into IND money, right? And you have sort of solve those challenges and enable users to do the same. What are those critical challenges that came as a roadblocker in your process?
Yeah, just to be clear, I worked at INDMoney. I'm no longer working over there. And
Yeah.
yes, currently I'm working with mPokket, right?
Hmm.
So, but with INDMoney, I was taking care of US stocks investing product piece.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So let me first contrast with what is known, right? Let's say an Indian wants to invest in, let's say, Indian equities, right?
Hmm.
You would want to open an Indian stocks demat account with any brokerage firm, right?
Correct. Yeah.
You have multiple applications for that,
Yeah.
and you would want to add money to your brokerage wallet and
Correct.
use that money. So use that money to buy shares, right? Which
Hmm.
would reside in on your own name in your own demat account, right?
Correct.
Maintained with that broker, correct?
With your pen associated to your account,
Yes,
let's say.
correct,
Yeah.
right? So, right, I'm not getting into all the nitty-gritties and all, right? I'm
Sure.
just trying to simplify this process
Sure.
for your understanding. But in US, right, how that would work, the predominant process is the same. That is adding money to your brokerage wallet,
Hmm.
using that money to buy shares, right?
Hmm.
But with the caveat that to add money to your brokerage wallet, because predominantly platforms like InMoney tie up with, brokers, US-based regulated brokers,
Right.
which is again very kosher. The money is remitted out from your bank account via LRS. Because why am I using the word remitted out and not some transferred?
Transfer
Because
only, huh?
because money is being converted from rupees to dollars,
Dollar.
and that would have to go via the pipes laid down by RBI, again a regulated entity, via rails called as LRS rails, right?
Hmm.
This is regulated by RBI,
Right.
and the banks, digital banks,
So
have to do
that's
that.
a completely separate entity which basically regulates the whatever money going from India for the investment into UX stocks.
Exactly,
So
pretty
that's a
much like
particular
that.
different entity altogether in from RBI.
No, imagine you going to your own bank, right?
Hmm.
Imagine, leave aside the platforms for a second.
Sure.
Imagine you going to an HDFC bank and
Yeah.
asking them to remit out to, let's say, your own US based broker wallet, right?
Hmm.
So you would tell them, hey, send out a Swift wire, right? Because
Right.
typically these are regulated by LRS rails, right? Imagine you're traveling abroad, correct?
Hmm.
So for traveling abroad, also you're converting the INR to dollars, and
Okay.
then let's say you want to remit out money. Maybe traveling might not be the right example. Let's say you're wanting to send dollars to, let's say, your friend or relatives, right?
Right.
So over here also you would go to your physical bank,
Hmm.
let's say an HDFC, let's say for an example, you would ask them, hey, here are the rupees, convert this to, I want to remit out $10,000. They will
Hmm.
give you a conversion rate or whatever. You will convert that to dollars. They would convert that to dollars, because only they can do technically, and they would be remitting out. They would be sending out a Swift wire, right?
Right.
That right over here, the process is very similar even for international equities investing.
Hmm.
Just that the purpose code, we call that as purpose code.
Hmm.
In the previous example, the purpose code was sending remitting out for your US relative, let's say. Over
Yeah.
here, the purpose is investing in international equities, right? For the
Correct.
money to come back, right? So
Correct.
it's not for any other purpose, right?
Yeah.
So with the caveat that we have simplified this, instead of you going out to a physical branch, we have digitized this.
Correct.
Platforms like INDMoney have partnered with multiple banks, right, to make this process seamless
Hmm.
and remit out, right?
Yeah.
So and again, these are one of the most kosher rails, right? Your the savings account is on your name, and by bank definition itself, it is very regulated entity by RBI.
Correct.
Sending out money is again very regulated by RBI under
Hmm.
LRS,
Hmm.
right? Money goes there and sits on the brokerage wallet on your name. The entity is regulated by the securities market in US, right?
Hmm.
It has its own insurance of, let's say, 500K, right?
Okay.
USD, again, as per US norms, right? Again, that is regulated, and the user can use that wallet. Again, in the going back to the Indian stocks example,
Hmm.
you can use that money to buy trades. Over here also, the US dollars that you have only remitted out, you can utilize that to purchase, let's say, your Google or Alphabet, or Tesla or Nvidia or whatnot, right? So
Right.
the process is similar, just that because there are multiple regulated entities, the pain point was immense,
Yeah.
which is what, I would say, in money has solved really well, right? And I contributed my small part.
As we discuss about, there are lots of challenges, lots of trades, lots of regulations was there, right? Which were by nature not easy in, right? Because not everyone would be able to figure out that, it's just a 0 to 1 problem. If we do this, it will figure it out,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes things work, sometimes we have to make it work other way around also, right? We have to figure out what are the other better solutions
Yeah.
by which we can, go about it and create the good seamless user experiences. Managing a team of product managers in INDMoney, right? Not all of your team members would be able to accomplish the same way the project works, right? There are a couple of roadblocks, and which also led to a performance problem, let's say, or maybe something is not working out because of the operational challenges, let's say, right? And being a team leader, you also have to manage those KPI segregated across your team member and things like that. So how did you facilitate those processes which enables every team member to feel accomplished at the same time? Product work is also not that getting into those roadblocks.
Yeah, got it. And again, so this is not just any one company that I worked at, even currently with mPokket, right? So
Sure.
the heuristic that I typically follow is predominantly having focusing on any individual, even for my team, even for myself, right?
Yeah.
Focusing on one North Star impact area, right?
Yeah.
One North Star metric. if you so wish, right? And enabling myself or that person, that a PM part of my team, or whosoever is in context,
Yeah.
is with extreme ownership, right? These are the typical two heuristics that I probably follow, and this served me really well, right? So ownership cuts both ways, because when we are saying ownership, that means both the PM is accountable
Hmm.
for a particular impact area or metric being moved, etc., and has the right ownership to take calls, right?
Hmm.
More often than not, we hear this ownership as a buzzword, right,
Yeah.
without typically meaning. Like, for example, you would see few companies, let's say that they are the owners, right, but someone else taking calls, etc. That might not be the true sense of ownership, right? So the PM should
Exactly.
have that liberty to take calls and be accountable for owning up the results as well, right?
And I
That
guess that's why they are also considered to be a mini CEO also, right? Cause,
again, a buzzword. So
but yeah,
fair
to
enough.
some extent, I guess that's true. Cause they are the ones who need to take not that high stake call, but at
Yeah.
least a low stake call to make it work.
So see, at least I don't treat PMs as mini CEOs,
Okay.
because I see this more as a collective team thing. If at all we
Hmm.
make one person stand out, like for example, a team should be equally motivated. When I say a team of a pod level, right? A pod is, let's say at mPokket, right? We are doing lending, right?
Yeah.
Right. So lending is a pod. Within that, I would have a separate sub pods, right? Where a person is responsible for, let's say, an onboarding, right?
Yeah.
Let's take that for a second, right? Because onboarding is predominantly useful for any context, even in any e-commerce context, right?
And in lending, it's very crucial
Very
also.
crucial also.
Yeah.
Right. So when we are saying that this particular team, the pod, and not I'm not just restricting my conversation to a PM now for a second. So
Yes.
if you're saying a PM is responsible, that team is responsible for improving the onboarding, right?
Hmm.
Let's define the two things that I just mentioned. One is the impact area. What is a North Star metric? Onboarding conversion,
Hmm.
possibly, right?
Hmm.
So why do I say and there needs to be good enough thought in defining that impact area, because that is going to define the success of the team now we are talking about, right?
Yeah.
So when we are saying conversion percentage and not, let's say, an onboarding daily onboarded users or anything else, right? First, the team needs to debate, is that the right metric, right? I'm just
Correct.
giving you an example. Why does it matter? Defining the wrong impact area impacts on what the team is going to work on, right?
Correct. Correct.
Let's say we define, let's say, onboarding numbers. Tomorrow I can increase my marketing budget, I can show a spike in my onboarding numbers. It's not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
But conversion, irrespective of market conditions, etc., can take that tomorrow with healthy percentage. I
Hmm.
Even with induced spend or reduced spend, which can matter for various reasons, right?
Right.
But conversion is what the team is possibly owning for,
Hmm.
right? Why did I say that I don't particularly view PMs not as mini CEOs? Is predominantly I would expect the team to work together, right? To have
Hmm.
that ownership. Let's say I don't want PM to say, hey, conversion is down, let's look at that, or let's look at this. It's the combined team responsibility. So
So is it fair? Sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
is it fair to say that it's a trio game than just a single person game?
Exactly, it is, right?
Hmm.
So, and building out that right team defines the success more often than not, right? The
Yeah.
best of innovations can come from the developer, right? If you're saying that a PM
Correct.
is mini CEO, then we are saying that, hey, buddy, whatever call that the PM takes, the rest of the people are followers. But predominantly,
Yeah. Yeah.
that might not
They
be
are
the
just a
recipe for
driver, let's
success.
say.
Yes, and we are talking in the context of digital products, right?
Yeah.
Where digital products predominantly more often than not are built on the economics of scale, right? So
Hmm.
they tend to work with that expanded scale, right? So for that, having defining one person having the know-all might not be the recipe for success. The true innovations can come from a designer, can from a developer, can from QA, right? Because can from a CE agent, customer experience agent,
Definitely.
because they are speaking more to the customers, frankly,
Sometimes
right?
from the sales team also, I guess.
Exactly, sales team. If you're working in a more
Yeah.
B2B setup, etc.,
Yeah.
right?
Because they are more responsible to get
Marketing
that
team,
conversion
etc.,
happen.
exactly, right? So defining why actually this is a great starting point as well, because once we say that, hey, one person is not a predominantly CEO but rather a pod is there, then there is a paradigm shift in the entire team, right? Everyone is
Responsible.
responsible, exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone is accountable, right?
Hmm.
Everyone is owning the impact area, right?
Yeah.
So I think, so going back to your question, I think getting these two things right is easier said than done, right? Define the impact area. You can just give it a 5-second thought and say, hey, this is the impact area, marketing, bring in more users, right? But
Hmm.
if at all they don't have that ownership of
Yeah.
of their destiny, right? They might be saying, hey, that CXO is probably taking the call, right? Which might not be the
True.
true recipe for success. So that is what I personally feel.
Hmm.
And I know I'm contradicting a lot of stalwarts in the, in fact, fintech
Please.
leaders itself, because I treat PMing more science than art. Right? There's this long-standing debate that product managers are more artists than
A scientist.
having a science person, right? But I particularly feel PMing is more science than art, right? It definitely needs art. So now what is the argument, right? So when we are saying that PMing is art, right? What does that even mean, right?
Hmm.
So basically, there's this argument that a product manager owns the customer experience, which is true, which
Hmm.
is again, like, as the answer to this might again, what does it depend on, right? It depends on the company, right? It depends on the problem that you're wanting to solve. It
Hmm.
predominantly depends on the customer that you're wanting to serve, right?
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, everything comes back from the is derived from the customer. What does the customer even need, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
entire company even exists, the product exists because it is meant to serve the customer, right?
Hmm.
So, and you would have read from news that Airbnb would have, merged its product management function, or
Into product
fired
marketing.
into product marketing
Yeah.
designers. Uh, you know, People define that we don't need PMs anymore, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm answering in that perspective. Is even PM needed, right?
Hmm.
So when we take a step back, right? What is product management,
Hmm.
right? Let's leave aside product manager, but for a second at least. But let's try to define what is product management, right? Product management, in my opinion, is bringing in leverage, right?
Okay.
What do I mean by that? So identifying one particular impact area or leverage area and going full on, right? And
Hmm.
bringing in that leverage, right? And um, and now let's bring in the context of, let's say, a person, a product manager coming in and bringing in that area. So
Hmm.
in few companies, this function of bringing in leverage can be played typically in small startups by the developer itself, by the designer itself,
Yeah.
right? When
Yeah.
we hear these companies merging functions, they are essentially saying that, hey, in this particular setup, the product marketing folks can bring in higher leverage because they are speaking to customers more, right?
Correct.
The product management function is being served,
Hmm.
but by a different person. You're naming A as B, as simple as that. That is how I particularly view it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now let's go back and answer your question. So why do I say that it's more science than art, right?
Correct.
Because when we are saying that product management function is leverage, right?
Hmm.
By definition, we are trying to say that there is some impact area. Going back to my previous answer,
Correct.
some North Star metric that we have defined, that needs to be solved for this particular customer, right?
Hmm.
For an e-commerce setup, it's GMV with a guardrail metric of your profitability. You don't want to have insane discounts and pump up the GMV, which is harmful for the business. So that is how you predominantly define a impact area. You would say what is
Correct.
the highest leverage point for this particular
Point two.
company, brought it down to team, brought it down to sub team level,
Yeah.
and then make these people owners in that.
Is it fair to say that identifying a problem will not be that critical of a task for a PM, but figuring out the right strategy which can drive the value in the business is also as critical as for the PM?
Actually, I think it is most critical. So as in just paraphrasing, right? You're
Yeah.
saying solution might be more important than problem. I am saying the reverse. I'm saying problem is the most important than solution,
Hmm.
right? So what do I mean by that, right?
Yeah.
Again, what is problem? Problem is what is that? What is it that we are wanting to solve? Which is asking the what, right? Asking
Correct.
what is it that we are trying to solve for? What is the customer pain point? That is actually more important, frankly, than a solution.
Hmm.
Let's
Hmm.
say you want to improve an e-commerce app, right? You can do it in million ways, right? you
Yeah.
you you might you might say, I want to increase the customer experience, but to
Yeah.
what end, right? That is where my argument about science is higher than
Art.
art
Yeah.
comes,
Yeah.
wherein I'm trying to say that the what, define the what. If there is a goalpost
Hmm.
that is well defined, well thought through,
Yeah.
debated, argued, and defined and owned, right? That
Hmm.
is more than half battle won. The defining the problem
Correct. Correct.
is more important, because once you have the problem defined, solution, you can do multiple experiments, you can have hypothesis and keep testing, etc., and try to move in that direction of finding the right solution, right?
And I guess for the same, you already have a design team who can solve it creatively and the tech team who can solve it logically, let's say.
Beautiful. Actually, amazing point that you're bringing it up, right? Again, see, defining it goes back to my science wala argument, which is, if we have this well defined, that leaves the subjectivity out of the room, right? So now
Hmm.
let's say the design team wants to say that, again, a buzzword, I want to improve customer experience. Again, my question is, to what end? But if
Yeah.
you have this impact area defined, then the argument could be that the design team would then phrase that argument in such a way that, hey buddy, I want to increase customer experience because I want to increase cross sell, I want to increase my conversion, it is hitting the North Star metric, I want to increase
Yeah.
NPS. So once that science boundary guides the team, I feel,
Hmm.
right, in my experiments of having art versus science, right, I
Yeah.
learned it by my own experimentation. I'm keen to hear any argument which negates this, at least
Hmm.
point, which is, if we have that boundary defined, if let's say the tech team tomorrow comes and says, I want to solve my tech debt, again, to what end, right?
Yeah.
When do you want to move fast and slow? Now if the tech team phrases that to
Hmm.
solving this, let's say, tech debt will help me go faster in tomorrow higher iteration which impacts this particular area, then it no longer becomes a tech wants this, it's the team wants this, because that is
Yeah.
impacting, because th- this is a very easy heuristic to align multiple stakeholders, even cross pod. Again, we keep hearing in large product dogs, nothing gets done, bureaucracy,
Hmm.
stuff, etc., etc. Again, to what end, right? Once we have that impact area defined, hey, for the company this is important, every pod will then automatically start falling aligned, right? Or
Correct.
else bureaucracy is also to some extent good, right? Because that is helping you make good faster probable decisions, right?
Hmm.
Bureaucracy is essentially organizing ourselves.
Yeah.
Bureaucracy, when we say coming in the way, is that organizing ourselves might be contradicting to where we are wanting to move. The where we are wanting to move is good enough, did I make sense, or
No, definitely, definitely that makes
cool?
sense. Thank you so much for the bringing out the detailed concept around the entire product management function, I would say, and not just related to one odd company, right? It's a very broad answer that you have given. Let's move or lever a little bit on the different direction now, right? From your perspective, what is the major key driver for Indian consumer market for adopting this fintech apps very rapidly, considering we are cost sensitive country in the first place?
I think if at all I were to pinpoint, I think it's well documented, right? Everyone talks about it. I think the big shout out to the Indian government, right? Because of
Mm-hmm.
the India stack, right? If at all you look at any particular metric, right? The digital payments taking off thanks to the likes of UPI, right?
Absolutely.
The entire financialization increasing thanks to our online onboarding, thanks to the again the government interventions in that respect, right? In the
Hmm.
KYC norms, making it more secure. And because I've had exposure to even international markets, I would argue that India in the fintech space, predominantly, this is why even excites me to work in fintech, is frankly light years ahead compared to
Geographies.
any other country, right?
Hmm.
So even let's take US, right? US came to a T+1 settlement, what just like last year end, right? We had that for a while now, right?
Hmm.
What do we mean by T+1 settlement? Let's say in securities, let's say you're wanting to buy a stock in, let's say, US. That comes, you are the owner, that hits your brokerage
Demat
account
account or brokerage
the T
account.
plus 1 day,
Yeah.
right? Until then, until last year, US was crediting that on T+2, right?
2 days. Yeah.
It took 2 days, right? The processes were so archaic that
Yeah.
it took 2 days. Talk about digital payments. India is again light years ahead, right? Compared to any other continent. So the single biggest, I think, driving factor is thanks to the government, right? I think that, and not getting in the way of fintechs, right?
Hmm.
So again, I would argue, again, I'm going against few notable people. I would say regulation, logical regulation is good, possibly,
Hmm.
right, in the industry, and fintech has a ton. And I would argue that it is more good than not, right? Few times it might get in the way, but at
Hmm.
least the government, the regulatory bodies are very open
Hmm. Hmm.
to hearing to feedback, right? I would argue, right? Again, more often than not, again, you have exceptions, again, multiple ways.
Yeah.
There might be misses, but then the government, the regulatory bodies are very open, frankly, I feel, in that matter.
Facilitating those all capabilities for allowing digital platform to onboard a customer fast, right? Making them convert from their UPI wallet or UPI very fast, right? That is being done by the government. But for that to happen and for that platform to succeed, they need to have a users on the platform. They need to have transactions to go rapidly on a scale, right?
Yeah,
That requires a lot of trust also,
yeah.
right? So from your perspective, what are the key things that that have changed significantly in couple of years from, let's say, around 20 after 2016 or some sort of, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That have been moved so fast in the industry. So from users perspective, we were always cost efficient, we are always less trustworthy and all, right, to this fintech platform. But now we have seen the change have done significantly. So why is that the case?
So again, I think couple of forces came into being, right? We all saw the takeoff of mobile penetration, right, with
Hmm.
good internet, right?
Hmm.
That is the key,
Hmm.
right? And India as a country, you need to understand that because our per capita income is low, right? The
Yeah.
ARPUs that any typical business gets to earn is also low compared to, let's say, a western counterpart, right? you
Yeah.
you see that playing across in multiple industries, right? And you see uh, again now, to make a good business work in India, right?
Hmm.
With these factors, we have huge populations, slightly lower ARPU, combining factors, you need that scale to work, probably in India, right?
Hmm.
And that is why typically, if you see businesses succeeding in India, getting this mix right. right? So
Hmm.
let's say mPokket, right? So
Yeah.
we got that mix right. I would argue that that achieving that scale and making that good economic sense,
Hmm.
right, and serving the right customer need, right? So getting that is necessary. And how did we do that? By creating a niche, right? In this particular space, right? There are n number of entities wanting to lend, right? But
Yeah.
for the customer, in need for let's say a student, right, who doesn't probably have a score necessarily, where other financial institutes are not willing to lend
Hmm. Hmm.
well, right? For people wanting to build their credit score, right? We are the go-to solution, right? So
Yeah.
that niche, creating that niche and achieving that scale is the getting that mix right, the product market fit right, and then
Hmm.
scaling it, right? So
Makes
that
sense.
and again, this country is no short of founders, right? I've got to work with some exceptional founders, so seeing that firsthand, right? So we are getting that right,
Hmm.
and I would argue that we are just early in this journey, right? Our fintech, at least I have seen our fintech take off from I started my career at least in 2017 with fintech in India, starting
Yeah.
with Paytm Money, Paytm, right? Seeing that rise in mutual funds, digitization, right? Until then, it was predominantly regular mutual funds.
Yeah.
I saw that firsthand, right? Right now, we are talking about SIPs in MF hitting the all-time highs, right?
Yeah.
So, in the very nascent stage, it was pretty much ridiculed in the financial sector that hey, one player is wanting to come and trying to sell, direct mutual funds or whatever, right? I
Yeah.
saw the UPI scene taking place, the mutual fund scene taking place. Right now, we are seeing the DMAT scene taking place,
Yeah.
the financial inclusion of building credit scores and taking digital loans taking off really really well, right, in a
Hmm.
country like India, and making good economic sense, complying by laws, right? That is
Yeah.
again underlying caveat, working with the regulators. So getting this right is is where that science and art blend together, and it makes beautiful business sense for a company. So I think
Hmm.
we're starting, we're definitely getting it right. Yeah.
And to some extent, is it also because of awareness increases over a period of time with social media, with internet penetration and all? Is
Yeah,
there some credit to it?
yeah, definitely, right? So again, this is thanks to that flywheel playing out, right? So once
Hmm.
you are solving good customer need, which the wider population, and
Yeah.
wanting to make good business unit economic sense, right? That flywheel tends to work beautifully, right?
Hmm.
At least in a country like India, we are solving the customer need. Well, I would argue, right? For
Hmm.
social media or not, Gen Z or not, it is social media is just a distribution channel, right? Where are you wanting to publish, right, etc etc. So all these are tool sets. Tomorrow you might have AI, right? Agents wanting to solve for it, but ultimately all these are, I would argue, tools to achieve
The goal you want to achieve on the product.
to exactly to solve that customer need.
Correct.
And over there it should make good, decent economic sense and
Hmm.
have that scale for businesses to flourish, right? So that we are
Hmm.
definitely getting it right in the
Makes
fintech
sense.
space. Yeah.
Makes sense. So, Aditya, so far you have worked with a couple of organizations, right? Including Paytm Money, including ClearTax and INDMoney, and now at the mPokket. All of those are by nature a super fintech app in that category, right? And not just serving to a one very niche. What do I mean by that is, let's say we consider Paytm Money. Paytm Money is not just focusing on how to invest in mutual fund only, right? When we say, let's say clear tax, it's not just focusing on allowing individuals to file the taxes only, right? So it's kind of a super app in nature, and you have got exposure to all of those platforms, right? Help us understand what are the key challenges during those tenure working in those organizations have came your way, and how did you solve it?
Yeah. Let me answer this not just restricting to the companies that I probably worked on, and outside in view of what is probably working in the larger ecosystem of fintech, right?
Hmm.
We briefly touched upon this, but essentially, I feel, again, this is my personal view, is India as a market is like how we discussed a lower per capita income economy,
Correct.
where typically the ARPUs, right? You have multiple versions of this argument, which is few people categorize this as India 1, India 2, India 3, right?
Yeah.
Where India 1, we all coming under India 1, India 2, probably are housemaids, and India 3, right? Beyond that, correct?
Correct.
And and different economies being played out at each of these levels, right?
Hmm.
And predominantly companies wanting to work in the India 1, right? So with that context,
Hmm.
now again it should boil down to what does it make for the it's a product market classical product market fit question, right? So
Yeah.
which is, what is solving really well for the customer. I might even add product market revenue fit, right? what
Hmm.
what is actually solving a good pain point for the customer, which
Correct.
is also making good decent business sense, right?
Hmm.
Because we often forget that making business sense is taken for granted, right? If you solve good customers,
Absolutely.
I think it should make good business sense and definitely solve that customer
Then and
problem.
only the entire ecosystem will
Exactly.
get survived.
Exactly. So now, given the context of our uh, country's population, if at all you're wanting to serve in India, right? There are
Yeah.
multiple companies wanting to serve abroad, which are exactly solving what I'm trying to say, which is you need to solve for that good revenue mix. For that,
Hmm.
given our context of country having lower ARPU and higher population, typically companies or businesses tend to have the super app approach, wherein it's a plus b plus c plus d revenue model, right? You would want
Hmm.
to have a predominant revenue model and then want to like cross sell a different particular product. It's like a typical bank, right? Bank brings in the customer for the savings account security aspect. They want to cross sell you a loan, a house loan, a personal loan, a
Correct.
credit
Yeah.
card, right? Typically.
Yeah.
And this you see playing out at multiple levels, etc. And fintechs or even your e-commerce apps, right? Zeptos of the world wanting to have the same rails, which is serve the same demographic, right? Let's take your quick commerce as an example, right? They're wanting to serve the same demographic. Now for that customer to increase my ARPU, I want to cross sell veggies, I
Yeah.
want to cross sell cafe, right? I want to cross sell any particular items, toys, whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So everything I think is stemming from the same principle. Now to counter this, few companies have wanting to solve customers abroad,
Hmm.
B2B customers abroad, wherein the ARPUs are higher, then you can, have a mix of targeting a niche set of arguments, right? And
Right.
building good software at scale, right? So I think I would argue that this is that version playing out at multiple levels, which is why you tend to see few fintechs also go in this super app route, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing the latest of UPI apps, etc., coming in doing this play. They're wanting to have particular distribution channel and then wanting to cross sell ABC products or whatever, right? So yeah, that I think is what is playing out.
Makes sense. Interesting. Uh, Help us understand if there is someone who wants to, let's say, start their career or wants to change their domain, being a product manager to fintech, right? What are the things that they need to consider in order to adapt those changes in their career? Uh, and the reason I'm asking you this question because you have a good exposure of the different verticals in finance industry, including investing, including wealth management, including taxation, and now lending also.
Hmm.
So help us understand what are the traits in being in a fintech product management space.
At least from my perspective, the heuristic that I follow is one is learnability,
Okay.
wherein is this particular problem space exciting me enough,
Hmm.
right? Uh, right. And the second thing is the kind of impact that I can bring to the table, right? Given my
Hmm.
experience, etc. And for myself, I chose fintech because this space really excited me. I luckily was fortunate enough right after my MBA from Excel.
What are the
Um,
nitty-gritties that really excited you about
yeah,
fintech?
exactly. I was just coming to that.
Sure.
So fintech space was really taking off right then, right? I
Hmm.
joined Paytm as a management trainee, where I got to work on this problem statement of mutual funds, right? It was
Yeah.
just starting to take off. You could see. And one thing that really excited me as a product management as a career also is lying in this answer, which is, as a product manager, you tend to live in the future. Like as a designer, you would
Hmm.
relate, you would want to give that experience, you want to visualize something.
Yeah.
You're tending to stay in the future,
Yeah.
right? That is one key paradigm shift when I approached product management as a career itself, coupled with the fact that fintech itself was at a very nascent stage. Right, the financialization of the country is at a very nascent stage, and extrapolate that to where you see this country going forward. Any
Yeah.
rough even idea would blow your mind. That look at the demat accounts that are there at that particular point in time. Look at the people even having savings bank accounts, right?
Hmm.
That itself has played out massively over the last 7 8 years, right? And
Yeah.
extrapolate that even further, right? So if at all you brought these two things together, which is looking forward and the space really taking off, I could see riding a long wave in this industry, which is
Yeah.
why I particularly chose fintech for myself.
Hmm.
But again, these are the two heuristics that I followed, which is what I would say to anyone, which is learnability and impact. I saw insane learnability in this space, and the impact that I could help create for the org that I would work for and for myself, right? I saw immensely in this particular space.
But what are those things which you feel that if people have a wrong assumptions about, right, then they should not come to fintech in the first place?
Yeah, great question, right? So, fintech, unlike any other sectors, uh, uh, needs to have a healthy respect towards regulation, right?
Hmm.
Typically in any startup, you would say that, hey, I would hack my way through it to a 0 to 1. I would want to quickly iterate and identify a problem statement,
Yeah.
right? Or test out a hypothesis, right? Not regarding anything else, right?
Hmm.
But it actually won't work in fintech, because there needs to be a healthy mix for a healthy respect for regulation, I would argue.
Hmm.
Because there is a moral responsibility also, because you're touching someone else's money.
Hmm.
And like I already covered, Indian regulation is light years ahead, right?
Hmm.
And I would argue it's a good thing more than a it's not a good thing, because that will safeguard both your business and the customer's interest, right? And if tomorrow the business itself doesn't exist, what how does it even matter for you to even solve a
Exactly.
decent enough customer pain point, right? So
Correct.
that is one strong jolt, at least, that I see PMs facing when wanting to come in fintech. They see the scale playing out, but they don't see the regulation hand in hand that businesses
Hmm.
need to respect, or PMs need to respect. That means you need to have that internal processes also, which help you take good decisions, compliant decisions,
Hmm.
right? That is that it needs to be ingrained in that business, right? So that is one key. And the second thing is, second thing that I see PMs finding it difficult to comprehend is the at least in digital fintech space, right? The entire scale at which things operate, right?
Hmm.
That is one more good positive thing that people would be have a decent expectation for,
Yeah.
that they would be expected to see that particular scale, I would argue, right? So yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Great. That was really interesting to know about so far about your experience, your understanding towards the different verticals in finance also. And for you guys, if you have any questions or something that you feel we haven't covered in this conversation and you want to ask to Aditya, let us know in the comment section below and we'll get it answered by Aditya. So thank you so much, Aditya, for joining today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all. Thank you.
Thanks. Our main goal with this podcast is to bring insightful conversation to help you grow in your career by inviting leaders who are driving impact at scale. If you find this episode useful, make sure you subscribe because that only helps us to invite incredible guests for the future episodes. And in case you have any suggestions about who we should invite and what all topic we should cover, let us know in the comment section below. We are always listening to make sure we deliver exactly what you are looking for.